So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted that we have with us Gal Leslie, who's the Sales and Marketing Director at To Work. So Gal, firstly, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and the business to the audience, that'd be wonderful.
Oh, well, thanks for having me, Chris. Appreciate the invite. So as Chris, as you've mentioned, I'm the Sales and Marketing Director for To Work. We are a flexible office space operator. With our first site, we opened in Leeds mid-pandemic, so that's interesting. Right. And we're currently growing our brand with a number of partners across the UK, none of which I can talk about because we're under strict NDAs with most of them, but we're growing our brand and watch this space for future spaces. But our space in Leeds is in the most incredible building. We love a building with a bit of a story. So we entered into Bank House on King Street in Leeds, which is a brutalist constructed building built in the 60s for the Bank of England as their regional headquarters. Wow. Still has the Bank of England vault in the basement, and they still get the currency bullion exchange happening occasionally. So the road gets locked down, there's armed police. It's very exciting. Okay. We don't offer balaclavas with the office space, but we have 2 floors in the building, which is 27,000 square feet. Really proud to say we have a 3,500 square foot co-working collaboration lounge, which is pretty much at capacity now, which is wonderful. It's a great environment. We do lots of events and activities there, and I'll come back to that in a second. And the rest is made up of quite large suites, because I think what we identified, my counterpart, our operations director, is a lady called Janthea Griffin, and we identified during lockdown one of the things that wasn't available in central Leeds during the lockdown was large chunks of space, i.e. sort of upwards of 800 square feet to, 2,500, 3,000 square feet on flexible terms. And when I say flexible terms, I mean less than a year. So if somebody wanted to come in for a project space for 6 months, or they needed a stop space before their conventional building was ready, they had nowhere, because the flex space in Leeds is a buoyant market and everywhere was full. Right. So we opened Leeds, we got to around an 80% occupancy in 7 months, and then took a second floor. And we're now operating at around 90% occupancy, give or take. We've got 3, we're just chopping up one of our larger suites to accommodate demand. So that'll give us 3 suites left to sell, and it's going brilliant. And I can't take all the glory for it, Chris. I wish I could, but we have an absolutely fabulous team on site that we didn't recruit from within the industry. We got them from hospitality, and it's been the best decision we've made, because they are the epitome of To Work. So big shout out to Natalie and Charlie for the great work that they do at Bank House.
Fantastic. Well, absolutely amazing. What a story, and what a great, speedy, as you say, to get to that level of occupancy that quickly. That's clearly meeting a demand that existed, and doing it in obviously an attractive way for people to come on board.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey so far, Chris. Yeah.
Absolutely, I can imagine. So if you could tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into business and why this particular one, that would be great.
So as I think with most people, unless you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, or you kind of stumble into sales. Yes. And I definitely stumbled into sales, and I have the gift of the gab, if my opening gambit didn't give it away. So I started out selling tiles and bathroom suites, and progressed to my first office job selling businesses, so going concerns like chip shops and day nurseries, and I just got the bug for sales. And I met my now husband and moved 40 miles away from the job I was currently working in, and started to just shop around. And I was offered a role with Regis, who, for those that don't know who they are the world's largest serviced office operator. I worked for them for 9 years. Loved and hated it in equal measure, as you do with most jobs that you're in for that sort of length of time. And that's where I met my now counterpart, Janthea, she looked after the Northeast and Yorkshire, and I looked after Northwest. So a bit of yin and yang, because the opposing sides of the Pennines, but actually we gelled perfectly. And I worked in my latter days, at my last sort of 3 years at Regis, I was in the corporate accounts team. So I looked after global corporates like B Sky B, Chevron Oil. It was very exciting, loved it. And then moved on to work for a London-based broker managed in their managed division. It's a company called the Instant Group, and loved my role with them. Loved work, absolutely superb company to work for, great people. Really loved everything I was doing for them. But I was regional based. I was based in the north. They were London based, and I just felt I wanted something a little bit more northern. I'm a northerner. I wanted something northern, and so long story short, during lockdown, I'd actually taken a role with a corporate travel company. Perfect timing, because I joined them in the November, and there was some crazy shutdown in the March, and I was furloughed. And it was a sort of chance conversation, catch up with Janthea, just a little natter, what you up to, what you're doing. And I was going stir crazy in the four walls of my house, and I said, I think I want to get back into flex. I really missed it. And I think I'm going to do something for myself. And she said, tell me more. And I said, well, I thought maybe like a flex space consultancy. And she said, tell me more. And we chatted, and we decided that actually that's what we're going to do. And we joined forces to do that. And in setting that company up, we actually were introduced to the then managing director of Two Work. And he said, don't go working for anyone else. Don't go consulting for the competition. Join us. They, at this point, were just a brand. They had no locations, no concept, really. He said, join us. We need your experience. He was an architect by trade. So he said, let's join forces, and we'll be a real group together to go forward with this prospect. So the sort of overall investment director is a gentleman called Martin Corbett, who's a really, really enigmatic entrepreneur and very involved in property. He's the man behind Homes for Students. He's got, he's involved with the build to rent company, furniture fit out, social housing. His finger in all kinds of pies. He's just incredibly busy, and yet gives you all the time that you need. He's wonderful. Brilliant. And he said, Janthea, gal, crack on, just get Two Work to where it needs to be. And we thought, well, we need to prove that we know what we're doing and get the proof in concept. And we joined them in January 2021, and we opened Bank House in June 2021. So short fit out period, and we opened the doors. And it's been quite the roller coaster. The MD left actually in the April to go back into architecture. So it just left Janthea and I essentially running the business. And for all intents and purposes, it's our baby. And we're very, as most mothers, I'm not a mother, but as most mothers are, very protective of our baby and want it to flourish and be the best it can be. So we're very, very enthusiastic about it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And so what are some of the sort of key challenges that you've had to face over that period?
Yeah, I mean, opening an office building in lockdown was probably key to the first challenge. Having said that, I think what was the challenge there was the co-working. So not so much the office, private offices, because companies were slowly starting to reevaluate their real estate, and they were either looking for more flexibility, to downsize, to upsize, whatever. So they sort of started to take off relatively well. But what we found and what we thought would have taken off quicker was the co-working, because people were still a little bit reticent to return into open working or mixing with other individuals. So that in itself created us a challenge, because we'd set this 3,500 square foot, which is, for those not in our world, is a big chunk of space. But we had faith in it, and we knew we were creating something quite different and special. Again, the team because of the background they've come from, they went out and started to partner with lots of local businesses in Leeds. So not just food and beverage, but fitness, well-being. We partner with a mental health charity called the Jordan Legacy, which is a suicide prevention charity. So it all started to come together. We were running a lot of, again, the events was a slow take up because, again, people didn't want to gather in small spaces or be too enclosed. So I think that was a big test for us at the beginning. And it's only been, I would say, in the last 8 to 10 months that has really rocketed, and we're now pretty much at capacity. So we've got over 400 members, which for a single site operation is pretty impressive. So we're quite happy with that. Wonderful.
I'd just to say, just amazing story of as you said, founding something that in the middle of all the challenges we're having would perhaps not be everyone's choice. So, but then I guess that creates a market.
It does, and we're also incredibly stubborn, Chris. So we dig our heels in, and because we're a female-led business, so we're very stubborn. So we dig our heels in, and we're like, this is going to work. We're going to make this work. And if we've got to drag people in, kicking and screaming, we're making this work. And thankfully we've not had to do that. And it's working really well.
Absolutely fantastic. And what would you say, some of the biggest learnings you've had about business and growing a business like yours?
I think it's being careful that your ambition doesn't outweigh your ability to do it. I think everyone is able to run a business, and everyone that runs a business is ambitious, and that goes hand in hand. But I think understanding your strengths as well. I mean, this is where Janthia and I are a really quite good fit, because I can be very tunnel visioned. I'm sales and marketing. I'm very, this is the route we're going to go down, and this is why we're doing it, and this is going to work. And Janthia has a very different, almost softer outlook on it. She's operations. She thinks a little more differently than I do, and we throw that around together quite a lot. So I think for us, the biggest learns for us were about where our strengths lay, and it was actually put to me by an old colleague of mine who said, if you're in a band and you play an instrument, you stay playing that instrument. If you're the lead guitarist, you play guitar. You don't suddenly go and play the drums or become the lead singer. So you've got to know what your instrument is, and you've got to play it well. And we do that really well. And the gaps that we have in our knowledge, we've got these sister companies that are run by the most incredible mentors and incredible business people that we can lean on and go to when we need advice. So, for example, finance is absolutely not my strength whatsoever. I can read a P&L, I can understand numbers, I can put cost models together, but you need somebody who can put those things together. So there's no point me trying to work my way around it and making a hash of it. If we're trying to put these models in front of prospective landlords and developers, we have to have our finance director go, hang on a minute, you're going to do this, why are you doing this, where's that money there? And he's, so we pull him in to do these things. Or we've got our fit out and furniture partners that we'll pull in to help us. Janthia's got an interior design degree, so she's got an eye on that sort of stuff. And we're just this happy band of a mixed bag of
wonderful,
very enthusiastic individuals that, as we come together, we make a fabulous band.
Brilliant. And it's a really great analogy and explanation. It's nuts that it is a very inefficient thing to do, to try and strengthen our weaknesses as opposed to play to our strengths. Because our weaknesses and the things that, I think it was Brian Tracy said, I love it best, he said, the most effective organizations are the ones where most people spend most of their time doing the three things that they really love and they're good at. And the things that I don't like and I'm good at, somebody else will love and be good at. And therefore find members of the team or the band. So I really love that analogy.
Yeah.
You're probably aware we're a business coaching organisation, and I'm just keen to know who are the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's in business, sport, life in general.
It's a really interesting point, because as I mentioned earlier, I stumbled into sales. It wasn't, I look at it as a vocation, actually, a bit like my mother was a nurse. I would make a horrendous nurse, absolutely horrendous. I mean, I don't like blood at the best of times, so I would have been a terrible nurse. But I kind of stumbled into sales, and I had absolutely zero training, absolutely none. It was just head first, throw me in, I'll figure it out as I go.
Brilliant.
And that is kind of how my career went. Nobody kind of got their arm around me, or nobody sent me on any courses, or it just didn't happen in the companies I worked for. And then I joined Regis, and a big global organisation. Again, never had any real formal training with them, but I think I was always the kind of person, I have that attitude of, do you know what, just chuck it at me. Chuck it at me. I'll go for it. I'll do it. I know what I'm good at. I can do it. And if I can't do it, do you know what? I'm not afraid to put my hand up and ask for help. And I actually, in my sort of latter years at Regis, worked under an area director. I was an area sales manager, and I got this area director who was a lady called Tracy, and Yorkshire woman, spade's a spade. You know, don't come to me with your problems, come to me with your solutions almost. But her style was, I think, a turning point for me, for my career, right. Because whilst she took me under her wing to a degree, she challenged me a lot, and in a really, really positive way. You know, if I made a mistake, she was the first to come down on me like a ton of bricks. And trust me, nobody ever wanted to cross her because she didn't suffer fools. She wouldn't stand for it. She wouldn't stand for any sort of messing about. So I almost wanted to impress her, and I always wanted to make her look good. I wanted to be the best for myself, but I wanted the best for her too, because the better that I was, it made her life easier. Yeah. And I was achieving great sales. I was really good at what I was doing, but she taught me so many different ways to look at approaching stuff. She was very, very consultative, and I'd never really approached sales the way she had, and she taught me an awful lot. She also taught me how to drink gin, which is probably another story for another time. But she taught me a lot, and we remain very good friends to this day. And I will always credit her for being that. She never saw herself as a coach. I never worked or had employed a coach before, but I will always say she's the one that turned my career to the way it was. I absolutely wouldn't have gone in the direction I did had it not been for her guidance. So I would credit that to her.
Fantastic. What a great story. And did you, along the way, have you picked up any favourite quotes or sayings that you find yourself using a lot?
Oh God, I use awful ones. I mean, I'm a walking cliche at the best of times, Chris. Do you know what? There are a lot. I think when you ask me if I have a favourite, I don't, because it's always about the circumstance or the moment that I'm in as to what would motivate me. So I'm. It's probably easier for me to say I don't have a favourite quote, and I think that the reason for that is I don't like taking away from somebody else, in the sense that if somebody's come out with a great quote, one of the great philosophers, or I'm not one of those people. I read them and think, that's a great, it sounds great, that means a lot, but I wouldn't use it because I think it sounds a bit, I can't swear on this, but it sounds a bit off. So I do have them, but I probably wouldn't think of any that I would share.
That's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. It's interesting that I think I find different people do, some people use them a lot, some people don't use it very often, but I guess the ones that are the most relevant are the sort of home truths, so the ones that we resonate with us, I think, and we can attach ourselves to those ones at the right point in time, and yeah. Probably I think I certainly found myself falling on different ones at different times. No, that's all good. Well, think about learning things, but what would you say you've learned about yourself as you've developed your career and journey?
Oh wow, I haven't learned to temper my mouth at times. I wish I had. I'm very don't engage brain quick enough sometimes. Do you know, I would say I think I'm pretty resilient. I think I kind of always have been from a young age.
Yep.
But I think one of the key things and certainly working for large corporates and working with large corporates, you need to be adaptable for change and ready on a knife edge to switch to a different tactic, a different strategy that will suit. I do think I pivot pretty well. I've never been a one size fits all kind of character. I'm a bit chameleon in that sense. I can interact, I can work with lots of different companies, whether that's, I'll give you a good example of this. Working with corporate clients, I can work with an entrepreneur that's just started his business, no idea where he's going or where she's going, and wants some help. I can work with that person and help them find a solution that fits. On the flip side, I used to look after B-Sky-B in a previous role, and there was a very sticky situation, and I won't go into detail, a very sticky situation that was going to affect the live broadcasting of Sky News, which broadcasts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I was taking calls from the head of Sky News on a Friday night at 9 o'clock when I've got a gin and tonic in my hand, and he's just, for want of a better word, freaking out on the phone at me about what was going to happen. And I thought, there's a solution here, but the solution, it will suit him and their business, and it won't suit my business. But I'm looking at that bigger picture and how I can retain their business as a client globally, as opposed to just that one situation. Because I knew if we didn't resolve that one situation, that client was gone forever. So I went and did something that was probably not, well, it was frowned upon, and I got a big telling off for it, but it suited the client, the solution worked for them, and it kept that client as a global client. So I think my ability to think and put myself in that client's shoes and think what's best for them that is also going to work for us from the bigger picture. And I think I'll always adapt that sort of strategy personally, as to, whilst I am quite resilient and resourceful, I'm also that chameleon of, right, what have we got to do to make this work, and how's it going to work for everyone, and not to the detriment of me or my business, but maybe the immediate pain, but what's the bigger picture? Brilliant.
There's I'm trying to think, it was David Maister came up with a trust equation. It was like trust is created by, and the key elements of it were doing what we say we're going to do, being likable, and I think there was a third one, but all of that was divided by self-interest. And so, by minimizing self-interest, we maximize the trust that we create, and it's bang on as a long-term strategy. It's absolutely right thing to do. And yet, as you say, short-termism sometimes means, we'll let the client down, and that's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Yeah,
it's and that's from a business perspective, but I'm no different in a personal perspective. It's exactly the same. I might not feel like I want to do something at that moment in time that's not going to benefit me right now, but in the long run, it's the right thing to do. So
brilliant. And so, looking forward, what do you see as some of the main challenges you may be facing moving forward, if any?
I'll be honest, there's quite a lot of challenges in our industry, and I look at them as challenges that we will overcome. I don't think anything is set in stone as being a stop marker, but I think there's a lot of, when you're looking at from a landlord's perspective, that have got buildings that they can create their own flex operations in. There's a lot of organisations out there that give advice to landlords on these things, or landlords and developers, a bit like British Land and Lend-Lease are doing their own thing. It's great. It's great to see that happening, but that does affect our industry. On the flip side, there is a legacy of operators, because that's what we are, a service operator. There's a legacy of operators that have carved this path of destruction by their behaviour with landlords. So what they've done pre-pandemic and during the pandemic is, in the interest of their own businesses, have muddied the waters with landlords and developers. And what that does for the likes of ourselves that are trying to create our own path, our own business, is landlords are going, oh, no, we don't want a serviced operator in our building, or we don't want to do that particular deal. We only want to do a 20-year lease. We don't. So it's trying to wade through all of those sort of objections to find the right building. And it's not just about, because that's a challenge in itself, but the second challenge is, and I'm talking from our business perspective, we want to partner with landlords and developers who have the same outlook on their buildings that we have. We've taken Bankhouse, and again, anyone that's never been to Leeds that doesn't know that building, it is a Marmite building from the outside, but it is such a gem on the inside. Really? And we love a building with a story, and we feel that that's our niche. But the challenge that comes with that is you've got to get people through the door. Yes. So it's all very well saying we do a great job, we've got great service, we include this, we've got X, Y, Z, but you've got to get them past that. Well, this building looks a bit odd. I prefer that nice big glass fronted glossy building over there. So there's a lot of challenges in that sense, but on the flip side, putting yourself from a client's perspective, challenges that are arising in our world at the moment is, the economy, of course.
Yeah.
Do I get fined for the first time I've mentioned the word economy? But the current climate is making organisations reassess their real estate. It's because real estate, second to their people, is their biggest outlay. Yep. So when they're looking at, well, where can we make savings? Do we want to adopt a more flexible approach? And we are seeing that. Lots of organisations are adopting flexible working, hybrid working. The old image of a flex space was that it would make their businesses look nomadic. We don't want to be based in a flex space because our clients will think we're going to be a fly by night, or we're not serious about setting our roots in that city.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge as well to overcome, to them, to help them understand that that's not the way that this industry is anymore. There's some absolutely incredible operators out there that are doing wonderful work, really creative spaces. The choice for the tenant, the member, the client is phenomenal. They've got so much to choose.
Yeah.
So it's setting yourself apart in that industry is also a challenge. What can you do that's going to not just entice a client in, but retain them? That's the hardest. Anyone can get clients in, but how are you going to keep them there? What are you going to offer them to keep them there? So these are all these little challenges that form the bigger challenge. And I think finally for us, it's just the escalating cost of running a business. It's keeping a cap on that and understanding where we can, make savings without having to pass that cost on to clients, and still be competitive in the market. So we for that purpose, we're not looking at London as a location. It's quite a saturated market. It's very, very hard to set yourself apart, and there's some wonderful space there. So let's leave that to run it, to do its thing. We're looking at the regions. We're looking at little periphery, tertiary towns and cities that people want to work closer to home. So we're going to give you an option to work closer to home. We'll look at the big cities as well, but that brings its challenges, because it's finding the right building that isn't in some farmer's field in the back and beyond. So all of those things are constantly moving parts of challenges.
Brilliant. Well, it sounds very, very exciting. I can't wait. It'd be good to maybe circle back in 6-12 months and see what the next stages looks like. I'm keen to know what your advice you would give to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now.
Oh God, do it, because you know what, we were saying I don't use sayings, but one of my sort of adages is, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
So it doesn't work. So what? But you've tried it. Give it a go. It's terrifying. It's sleepless nights. It's grey hair. The money I've spent on hair dye is ridiculous. But but it's also really rewarding. And if you want to be challenged and you've got an idea and you think, I really want to give that a go, just go and do it. You know, we're very fortunate. We have a group of businesses that sit aside us that help us get to where we go. We're not on our own. So get coached, get coaches, get the right advice. But if you've got the mentality and the attitude and the motivation, just get up and just do it. You know, I'm into fitness, and I mentally will say, I can do this, and my body is saying, you cannot do this. You are not doing anymore. You are not. So it's the same with business. You've got that challenger. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't run a business. That imposter syndrome. Of course you can. Of course you can. What's the worst that can happen?
Brilliant.
Give it a go.
Very sound advice. I absolutely love it. And if you started again, is there anything you do differently, do you think?
There probably would be a lot. I mean, you know, I think we could have taken a bit longer to find the right deal that suited our business, but we've got a great partner with our landlord in Leeds, so it's, you know, that's worked out really well.
Yep.
What would I do different? I mean, probably not. I'd say if I gave it a lot of thought, I could nitpick, but I've got a great business partner in Janthia. I work with a great team. We've got fabulous clients, fabulous brand partners that give our clients and members discounts. We've got a brilliant tech partner with a company called Yardi. We work with a wonderful charity in the Jordan Legacy. So I kind of feel we've aligned ourselves with like-minded companies and businesses and people. So no, I probably wouldn't want to do anything different. I mean, you know, we could have more money, but then that's the same in anything, isn't it? You know, it's not, but it's not the be all and end all, because actually seeing what we've created and what that's going to deliver in sites 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, that's enough for me to know that actually we, you know, the little errors that we might have made with this, we've learned not to do for stage 2, but actually they're so minor that if we did do it again, it's not too detrimental. So probably not.
And you know, my personal opinion in general, if where you are is a great place, then if you change anything, you might not be here. So it's almost like it's the learning for the journey that has the value too. So we learn way more from mistakes than we do from successes, and therefore, you know, making mistakes is actually part of success, not. Do you know?
I mean, I wish I'd have done it earlier, but then the opportunity didn't arise earlier. It's about that. You know, I'm not one for all fate and stuff like that, but it kind of feels like that. It was meant to happen when it happened. Really? You know, I was meant to be furloughed. I was meant to have that conversation with Janthia. We were meant to go down that road we went down. We were meant to meet, and it's all kind of fallen into place. So if I'd have done it any earlier, it would probably be a different story.
Yes. And absolutely, that's the point. It's the whole sliding door thing, isn't it? It's just these are the set of circumstances that have led us here. So wonderful. And finally, what would be the best advice you could give to an 18-year-old you if you were able to go back in time and do so?
18-year-old me. Oh man, that is quite a scary thought. I mean, obviously, it was only last year. 18-year-old me. Do you know what? I probably partied harder than I should have done. I should have travelled a bit more. I lived on my own from being 17. So actually I should selfishly go back and say, stay at home a bit longer and, you know, travel and don't party as hard as you did. And, you know, stay at college and go to university and pursue your dream of being a journalist and a writer, and don't fall into sales. But then had I not fallen into sales, I wouldn't be here. So do you know, I don't look back. I have no regrets, none whatsoever. And I don't look back and think, you know, I should have gone to university, or I should have done that. Yeah, of course, giving you time again. Yeah, you probably would do things differently, but I wouldn't give myself the advice of, oh, you know, don't sweat the small stuff, because when you don't sweat the small stuff, the big stuff doesn't happen. And just, you know, I'm lucky. I've got great family, great friends, great support, great husband, great life. And all that's come because 18-year-old me did what she did when she was 18. So,
That's
yeah, probably wouldn't change
absolutely
it.
good enough. Brilliant.
I mean, had I have been able to meet and marry Tom Hardy, I mean, obviously I'd have done that, but I went for Tom Hardy the second.
Brilliant. Oh, that's great.
Don't tell him I said that.
I think you might find out. Brilliant. Well, Gail, thank you so much. It's been really, really interesting, and
No, thank you.
I really wish you the best successes for the future, and it'd be great to, as I say, maybe swing back in 6 months, because obviously developments that you can't talk about are happening, and it'd be great to see what's going on. And for anyone that's listening, if they'd like to get in touch with you or to work, what would be the best way of doing so?
So our website, which is www.2-work.co.uk. We have a YouTube channel, albeit it's in its infancy, so don't get too carried away with that. Or they can contact me directly. I'm on LinkedIn, Gal Leslie, or any of our team, Natalie Poocher or Charlie Herbert or Janthia Griffin.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, and as I say, we'll look forward to catching up again sometime in the future.
Thanks, Chris. Nice to see you.
Thank you.